What is up, friends of YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. And this right here is the POCO M3 Pro. Okay, so I've been using the POCO M3 Pro for about a week now. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a few things that might tickle your fancy if you're in the market and getting a budget-friendly smartphone in 2021. Now, unboxing the M3 Pro are the usual suspects without the included welcome letter from the man behind the machine, like previous smartphones released by POCO such as the F3 and the X3 Pro. We have the welcome packet that houses the SIM ejector tool, some paperwork that includes the warranty and user guide, a complimentary jelly case, the 22.5 watt fast charger included in the box, and a USB Type-C cable for charging and data transfer. So here's the device itself with a few key features, such as the Dimensity 700 chip with support for 5G connectivity, a 6.5-inch Full HD Plus dot display with a 90Hz refresh rate, with support for dynamic refresh rate switching, a 5000 mAh battery with 18 watt fast charging support, and a 48 megapixel AI triple camera configuration. So here's the first look with the sexy power black M3 Pro in all its glory. Now, for my initial impressions, for one, the device is quite narrow, which makes it a pleasure to hold, and despite having a glossy finish, the device does give you a nice grip. In terms of weight, the M3 Pro does feel light despite rocking a 5000 mAh battery on the inside. This probably merits the fact that it comes predominantly built with plastic, making the device a lot lighter as opposed to a smartphone sandwiched with glass and metal. Towards the left, we have a hybrid SIM card tray with dual 5G support, which is amazing considering the price point. Up top, we have the iconic IR blaster, noise cancelling microphone, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. And towards the right is the volume rockers and a flushed power button that doubles as a side-mounted fingerprint scanner. And lastly, we have a USB Type-C port at the bottom, a primary microphone, and a primary speaker. In front, we have a 6.5-inch Full HD Plus dot display covered with a pre-installed screen protector, and with a slight shift, you can actually capture the 8-megapixel front-facing camera at the top center. Around back, we have this vertical array of lenses, which consists of a 48-megapixel primary lens, a 2-megapixel macro lens, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor, where the primary lens uses a pixel binning technology that defaults to 60 megapixels per shot, combining 4 images into one. Overall, for my first impressions, I can say this was indeed a good unboxing experience. It would have been great to see a complimentary pair of earphones in the box, but otherwise this is already a complete package for the price. Now, if by any chance you still have a few change to spare and would like to elevate the whole gaming experience, then getting a Blackshark Fun Cooler Pro should do the trick in keeping things nice and cool for those extended periods of gaming. Now, before we dive deeper though, I would like to point out that POCO did an amazing job with the fingerprint scanner. It does work 95% of the time and is quite fast for the price point. Now, out of the box, the M3 Pro comes with MIUI 12.0.5, which is the latest firmware to date. Now, in addition to the first boot experience, the M3 Pro by default is set to 60 Hz, which you can just simply modify to 90 Hz as this device supports it. Now, despite having an LCD panel, the M3 Pro also comes with some fine-tuning for the display, which is a nice gesture, allowing you to alter the screen setting to your liking. It's actually nice to see POCO enhancing the experience even for the budget-centric consumers. Now, in terms of photography, the POCO M3 Pro does come with a triple camera setup, where the primary is a 48 megapixel lens that is paired with a 2 megapixel macro and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. The camera UI is pretty standard to that of other smartphones under the same umbrella, but does lack some of the premium features found on the more expensive siblings like the X3 Pro and the POCO F3. It does allow you to shoot up to 30 frames per second at 1080p, which is great, but would have been better if there was support for a 60 frames per second mode or even 4K. Probably it can be implemented in a future software update. Here's a sample video recording using the POCO M3 Pro set to 1080p at 30 frames per second here at Andy's Cafe, which sells remarkable chocolate crinkles, by the way, and was gracious enough to let me shoot a video here despite the madness going on. If you'd like to check them out, their social media pages are in the description down below. In terms of actual performance such as gaming, since POCO is being associated to the category, the M3 Pro's Dimensity 700 chip did fairly well, surprisingly actually. You see, on paper, the Dimensity 700 chip is actually being placed as a counterpart to the Snapdragon 720G or 730 processors of Qualcomm in 2020. And in terms of actual performance, I couldn't agree more as it did perform as intended. Here's a few benchmark tests that I ran using the M3 Pro for those who are into these things, though I personally prefer the real-world testing as opposed to a bunch of synthetic numbers, but here they are. Of course, other features of the M3 Pro performed much like any other smartphone with flying colors. Aside from the dual 5G support, call quality was great, signal strength was amazing, battery life was superb. Given that it does have a massive 5000 mAh battery, I'd honestly say for the price, the POCO M3 Pro is a sure buy for those looking for a budget-friendly smartphone in 2021 without sacrificing too much in quality and overall performance. Now, if you'd like to get your very own POCO M3 Pro or is looking for a budget-friendly smartphone in 2021, links are in the description down below on where to get one for the best possible prices for your convenience, as well as some of the other stuff that I've featured on this video. And that's about it for my review of the POCO M3 Pro. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or inquiries, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again for watching. This is Chris once again from Crisis Point, and I'll catch you in the next.